With homeschooling, when we pick our curriculums or pick our styles, we might find that a mashup or a variety or switching throughout the year works really well. Sometimes we use gather round curriculum for our family and we're all in. Sometimes we are eclectic, and that's typically what I like to call myself as a homeschooler, but sometimes we unschool. And that's what I want to show you today. If you've never heard of the term unschooling, it's basically finding ways to learn through your natural surroundings or through your kids' interests. It doesn't rely on a curriculum, but really it teaches us to slow down and to ask questions and to figure out how to find those answers. Well, first things first, everyone's got to eat. So Oaken took his little stuffed beaver outside and made sure he had a healthy breakfast. And then while we were on our way to breakfast, we got to talk about what different animals eat. We got to talk about that a beaver is an herbivore, and then what animals would be omnivores or carnivores. After breakfast, we got invited to a play date, and the kids had these like rain gutters that they were pouring water down into in like a riverway to go to the ocean, and they put together this dam using grass and tree pieces and rocks, and then it created this lake underneath it. And there's just so many directions we were able to take this later on to, even as far as like buoyancy and density, with learning what things would sink, what would flow down the river. And it was really a cool experience for the kids and for me to have. Now, I don't want you to think that I just know everything and am able to teach my kids these things. We use a lot of books, and reading creates confidence as a parent and a mother and a teacher. And so I have my books divided into these different shelves and categories, and we have books about nature and about animals' homes, and I really appreciate these resources. Typically, we like to read them ahead of time before we know that an experience is coming up, but sometimes we don't know what's coming up, and so when we get home, we get to explore and learn more about those things too. Being able to go back and reinforce the lessons we learned either through reading later, or if we've already read, we're able to reinforce what we read by being in nature or being in whatever the circumstance is, pointing out those things that we learned. But we learn it together through the books, and we create these memories together. And I really treasure that time with my kids. After lunch was toes up time, and Eli read like 3 chapter books while we were at camp on this week, and I'm just so proud of him and impressed by him. The twins were going through this game, the Who Would Win game, and this is really cool. It shows the speed and the length and the weight, I believe is what it is, on all of these cards for each animal. So for example, here they're comparing the python and the bull shark. Speed is 1 mile per hour versus 11 miles per hour. And my twins that are 5 years old are learning greater than and less than in comparison, as well as learning about these animals that they really like. After that game and some reading time, we did 21 or blackjack, and the kids are practicing their math up to 21. In this game, they're practicing, okay, I think I should hold. I'm close enough. I don't want to go over 21, or maybe I do want another card, but they have to really think that through in their minds, and I value that ability just through a simple card game. After our rest time, we went outside, and this is something the boys have been doing all week. They love collecting the snail shells and the clam shells, and so I asked them to collect the snail shells and the clam shells as well as pine cones and put them in a bucket. And look at that. It's just so fun to take time to slow down and really look at these things with the kids. But after they had done that, I asked Oaken to go ahead and count to 20 and pull those things out of his bucket and count to 20. And he's 3 years old, so we were helping count along with him. After counting the shells and things, the twins lined them up in rows of 5, and we practiced counting 5, 10, 15, 20. Eli had to say 5 groups of 4 equals 20, so we're getting multiplication in there. Then we put them in categories, snail shells and clam shells and
pine cones, and we're able to make a bar graph out of that. So Eli draws our bar graph with an X and a Y axis. See, there's so many things you can do here, and I'm not even done yet. And we're just having fun in the sand. Like, yeah, they know, like, this isn't just playing and building sand castles, it's doing some schoolwork too, but we're still having fun and we're finding creative ways to do it. And school doesn't have to be boring and done on paper. Like, you can do it in the sand, and this is such a fun way to do that. So you can do it with all kinds of things. We had done it earlier in the week with other items as well. And there's just so many ways to do it. Dad came over and he's helping us now make a pie chart. And before, we've been working on 2, like just doing like snail shells and clam shells. But today we're doing 3 things. So Dad's helping to figure out how we're going to divide it into 3 pieces. We've got 8 of one item, 8 of another, leaving us with 4 pine cones, right? Yeah, pine cones. And then the other boys are helping to put those items in there. They don't understand a pie graph yet, pie chart yet, but they are working on it. Here, they're putting those things in, they're getting that visual part, and that's going to help us later on, because when you can make things real and applicable, it helps to stick it in the memory. Now, after this, Oaken and I had some extra time, so we wrote his name and ABCs and rocks and sticks before going on to our activity together. Then we caught up with Dad and the kids for some craft time. Then after dinner, we went out and continued with our photography lesson. Now, Dad had the great idea of taking the camera with us to camp and letting the boys practice using it. And so Eli here is working on perspective photography. He's using his new Lego set that he got and taking close-up pictures. This is just so much fun, and to learn all these different things, all these different vocab words that we had worked on during the week of symmetry and depth and foreground and background. And then we also learned about the rule of thirds, which is like if you made like a tic-tac-toe board and then you wanted your pictures to be on the horizontal or vertical lines or on the intersecting points. And I thought the kids did so well with this. I was so pleased with their pictures and the way they turned out. They just really got that, and they understand, and we got new vocab words in there as well. So after a long day of lots of activities and many things I didn't even show you that we had so much fun doing, I had the boys sit down and ask them, Eli, to write a letter to his grandma about what his favorite thing was that he did. And then the twins told me what their favorite thing was for the day. So I wrote that out, and they're just copying over my handwriting, and then they're going to draw a picture also of what their favorite thing was. And there are so many ways to practice handwriting. It doesn't have to come from a curriculum book. It can be writing a letter, writing your favorite thing, writing a line-a-day journal is a good idea. You could do a nature journal, a prayer journal, keeping a reading journal. There are so many ways to practice handwriting. Writing out Bible verses is one of my favorite ways to do it with the kids. So don't think that you have to get a handwriting book and stick with it. Make handwriting just like part of your every day, right? That's what we do as adults, and that's what kids can do also.
Some families choose to do unschooling one day a week, like on Fridays, and some have chosen to make unschooling a way of life. Then there are families that have found non-traditional ways of doing education that work best for their family, and you can click here to learn more about those methods.